So this video is my recap and also to finalize my condition damage for the Ranger for this year 2016, and I'm doing this for me to look back from in the future and look back at this year and see what are the areas that I can improve on my class and for my build, and perhaps I can do something about the quality of my videos for later on. And so obviously next year there will be some changes to the build, condition damage build, and when that time comes I'll be doing another video. So this video purpose is for me to finalize everything that I know of, or perhaps you can say that I would like to finalize the build that I have for general PvE for condition damage ranger for 2016. So without further ado, I like just to get into the build itself right now. I'll start off with the specializations, then equipment, then weapons, and all the information as always. It has been my format so far, and it will continue to be that way. Alright, so let's get on to it. Alright, so when it comes to the specialization for the Ranger, as always I prefer to do it live because it just makes my job easier to explain stuff with the description of the skill. So first one, Skirmishing, second one, Beastmastery, last one, Wilderness Survival. Now for Skirmishing I'm using bottom, and middle. For the first one, Trapper Expertise, this one will provide me with the ability to reduce the time for the recharge of my traps and also increase the effect of the condition damage duration by 60% on the trap. Now for this build you'll be using a lot of traps because trap for the Ranger has quite a number of condition damage on it, and this build is about condition Ranger, so that's why you have the trap. Now as you can see in my utility, I have 3 trap spells available for me: Healing Sprint, Flame Trap, Spike Trap, and I'll be using them on a regular basis, but I will get on to the utility and some other versions of my utilities later on in this sections. So let's move on to the hidden barbs. The hidden barbs will cause my bleeding to become more dangerous by having an increase of in damage by 33%. Last one, Light on my feet. It will, whenever I dodge, my condition damage lasts longer and my damage is increased. So there's not much that I can say about this. Let's move on to Beastmastery. For the Beastmastery I have the Companion's Might. So my critical hit will grant might to my pet, and critical strikes for my pet attacks will cause more bleeding. Now as you can see in here that I have my pet right here. I'll be using it on a regular basis, and also there are a variety of the pet which I will be talking about them in later sections of this in the later part of this section. So let's move on to the next one. So for this strike, whenever I execute the F2 command, my pet will be dealing the weakness, and for the weakness it reduces 50% endurance regenerations and 50% fumble. Alright, so last one, Horned Axes. This one gains ferocity while wielding an axe in your main hands, and Winter's Bite is now an AoE skill. Axe skill recharge faster. Now because in your secondary weapon set you will be using an axe and a torch, and so because of that I prefer to have Horned Axes on my skill so that I can keep on throwing the split blade, which as you can see in here it has bleeding for 7 seconds, and the total amount of damage is 5372. And also for the Winter's Bite it will also cause the bleeding, and also for the chill effect and weakness as well. Right, move on to the last specializations. We have the Wilderness Survival. For this one I have the bottom, top, and bottom. First one, Expertise Training. Pets deal extra condition damage and have their condition duration increase. Not much I can say about this. Right, you can see it. Next one, this one will allow you to gain condition damage while wielding a torch or dagger. Torch and dagger skills recharge faster, and as you can see in here that I'm using a torch, so that will go really well with this attribute. Now last one, Poison Master. Poison Master, after swapping pets, your pet's first attack will inflict poison. Your poison damage will increase by 25%. Alright, so as you can see in here that for the weapons you don't see any poison damage, right? So it comes to that one, Poison Volley, and it will fire a poison arrow, no, 5 poison arrows, and poison lasts longer if the target is hit from behind. So ideally you want to hit them from behind, right, to maximize your damage. And so that will go nicely with the poison damage, and also that will go nicely with any pets that deal poison damage. So for example, if you look at in your pet, I have the spiders, and the spiders, they have poison, see, so that will go really well with them. Alright, so let's just go back to that one, and I will explain the pets later on. For the utilities, I have the healing sprint, flame trap, spy trap, and signal the hunt. And the last of the utility elite spell, I will be using the strength pack. Alright, so what are the alternatives? So the alternative that I usually look into, it depends on the scenario as always, because obviously there is no fix for everything. It depending on the circumstance, it depending on whatever environment that you are facing or the scenario that you are facing. So some consideration, I usually take the Sun Spirit with me, because the Sun Spirit, especially when you are doing the meta event, right, you will be providing your allies the ability to inflict the burning condition damage. And if you have a Necro, or if you have any high condition damage class like the Necro or another Ranger, or perhaps it is, let's see, what are the other ones I can think of, Engineer. So yeah, Engineer, or perhaps maybe even the Burn Warrior. So if you have any of those condition damage classes in your party in the meta event, you can pop the Sun Spirit, and it will allow the other classes to inflict extra burning condition damage stacks whenever they critical strike an enemy. Sorry, not a critical strike, but whenever they attack the enemy, because obviously, as you can see in here, 75% chance to apply burning on hit. So it doesn't mean critical hit, it can mean any hit, you know, any form of attacks. Alright, so what are the other ones that I'll be using? Sometimes that I put on the Signal of the Stone, just to give me some toughness, but I don't usually put it in. And what are other ones? Well, I sometimes, if I want to use full traps for to maximize my damage options, I will be using these. So flame trap, spike trap, and viper's nest. Now you can also use this one as well, but it's situational. So this one is more crowd control, and you want to slow down the enemies. But otherwise, if you want to maximize your damage, I would highly recommend you to be using flame, spike, and vipers, or poisons, you know, depending on the person who you're asking. Sometimes they would call it a poison trap or viper's nest. Alright, so sometimes I'll be taking the Frost Spirit as well. A Frost Spirit that has a chance to grant bonus damage to nearby allies. So this is a physical, like physical damage and any form of damage. 75% chance to grant 10% bonus damage on hit. So sometimes I will pop it up, but I usually don't. And Stone Spirit, summon a Stone Spirit that provide protection, so this is more survival, and the same with this one as well. This one will apply the vulnerability to the target, and so you can deal more damage. So those are the ones that I use, but my standard, most of the time that I will be using, is these. And sometimes I'll be swapping to that Sun Spirit. So either Sun Spirit or Spy Trap. Now let's talk about the elite strength of the pack. Now this is my standard. It has been my standard for about 2.5 or 3 months already, actually. And the second one, Entangle. This one is crowd control and also apply extra stacks of bleeding, but I don't usually use this one that much. Reason for that is because I prefer the strength of the pack to give me fury, and also for stability, and also for swiftness, especially if I need to move from one place to the other, try to escape, or try to prevent any disable spells or attacks coming after me. And so stability will provide me with an extra protection that I cannot be knocked down, push back, etc. And so that's something that I prefer to have on the regular basis. But you can also go for the Entangle if that is something that you prefer, or you can even go with the Spear of Nature to command the spirit to revive and cure condition damage on nearby allies. So it's entirely up to you. I'm just giving you options. Alright, so let's move on with the pets. So you have the option to use 2 pets at the same at any given point in time, and you can swap them around. So when you press F4, you can swap the pet, right? Alright, so for the pet, there's a number of common, well, not common pets, but there's a number of pets that I would use on a regular basis. The first one would go with the I would usually just go with the Wyvern, the Fire Wyvern, because the Fire Wyvern, you have the consuming flame. This one will channel an expanding stream of flame from above, and it will provide you with an AoE options from your pet to an area, and so that will be very good, especially when you are facing with multiple mobs at the same time, and you will need an extra AoE spells to cast on the ground so that they can the mobs can take the burning condition damage. So let's move on to the other pets. So most of the time I will be using I'll be having my Fire Wyvern. It's like a must in my for this build, for general PvE build ranger. I always have my Fire Wyvern. Now for the other one, it's optional. It's highly depending on the circumstance. So let me just go quickly with a couple of them. So I usually have, if I want to maximize my damage, I usually have this one right here, the Lynx. Why is the Lynx? The Lynx has the ability to inflict the bleeding damage on the target, and also if you look at the skill of the Lynx, it slash a multiple foes, it slash the foe multiple times and make them bleed. So it's highly customized to the bleeding condition damage. And as you recall from my previous talk about the, what do you call it, where is it, yeah, this one right here, critical hits grant might to your pet, critical strikes from your pet's basic attack cause bleeding. And as you can see in here, the Lynx has a very high precisions, 2361, and because of that, it will go really nicely with the companion's might, and also for the bleeding as well. Where is it? Yeah, bleeding you cause is more dangerous, and also for this one as well. After swapping pets, you will deal poison condition damage. Alright, so that is for the Lynx. Let's move on to sometime if my group needed some fury as a buff, I will be using my Tiger, but otherwise I don't. What else is there? Spider. Spider condition poison condition damage. Sometimes I put it on, but I usually don't. It's this very special circumstance I will be using my Spider. So let's see, what are the circumstances, what are the examples I can give you. Okay, let's say that you have a boss coming in into your, let's say that the boss coming in, and then you have something that you need to defend right here, but the boss is coming really fast, and so you would need to immobilize the boss or slow it down, and so that will go really nicely with this one right here. Your next attack immobilize your foe, unable to move. And so that's something that, you know, as an example, that's something that I can give you, that I would use my Spider only for that circumstance. Otherwise I don't usually touch my Spider. Now the last two that I usually have is the Bristol Bag. Now the Bristol Bag is very tank. It is, see this, it has a toughness of 3048, and the vitality is, you know, decent, and it also it's also apply multiple attack from this spy barrage. So as you can see in here, strike multiple times, and combine that with whenever you swap from your Wyvern to this one, and then you activate that right away, that will also applying with this one, and also that one as well. So that's very good. Alright, so, and it can also serve as a tank for use because of the toughness, high toughness. Alright, so, and it also has the bleeding as well. Alright, so last one, Smoke Scale. Smoke Scale, it has quite a high vitality, as you can see in here, 3735, and it does provide you with a might as well, and it also, you know, inflict the bleeding. Now I only use the smoke scale when I need extra survival. So for example, let's say that I'm facing with, I know for the fact, if I know that the meta event will involve with me soloing a lot of mobs coming after me, then I would prefer to have my smoke scale for the F2 command skill. So it will create a smoke cloud, and this cloud will blind the enemies. And so let me demonstration for you. See, it will blind the enemy, and that will allow me to have extra time to deal with those enemies. So it will increase my survival. Alright, so that's pretty much for my pets. I will be, let me just swap this one back to the links. Alright, not the bear. Let me swap it back to the links. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the specializations. I'll be moving on to the equipment now. The equipment of the ranger will be divided into two. The first one is maximizing the damage, and the second one is for the budget. Now for the maximizing option, I always recommend people to go for full vipers for the ranger, including the equipments, accessories, and the weapons, everything full vipers. Now for the superior rune, you will be using a combination of 4 superior rune of the nightmares and 2 superior runes of the trapper. Why is that? The superior rune of the nightmare will provide you with 4 pieces, will provide you with a 75 points in condition damage and a 15% points into your condition duration. Now combine that with the superior rune of the trapper, you will have another 25 points in your condition durations, and the duration of your condition damage will be increased by 10%. So in total you will have a 25% condition durations, increase in condition durations, and 100 points into your condition damage. And this superior rune of nightmare, a lot of people might not like it, and I refer to dungeons. This is where you can get the superior rune of the nightmare. It's from Twilight Arbor, a level 50 explorable mode dungeon. So if you don't like dungeons, that's completely understandable. Not many people like it. If you don't like dungeons, then I can recommend some other alternatives. The first one is superior rune of Berserker, the second one superior rune of Balthazar, and the last one is you can either go full with the superior rune of the trapper, or there's also another one as well. I think it's called superior rune of the crate. Now all of the options I'm just giving it to you so you can pick from. The reason why I'm recommending the superior rune of the nightmare and the combination of the superior rune of the nightmare and the superior rune of the trapper is because the ranger has the ability to deal bleeding, burning, and poisons, and because of that it is ideal for the ranger to have an increase in overall damage of the conditions for each of the tab instead of just focusing on one. But if you do not like dungeons, or if you don't want to get the access to the superior rune of the nightmare, that's understandable. You can substitute that with either superior rune of Berserker or Balthazar, or just focus on the Balthazar because burning condition damage is the strongest condition damage tab in the game. Compare that to other condition damage. So if you just want to try out a class, or looking at the alternative for the maximizing options, you can go with the superior rune of Balthazar, or if you have any spare extra one in your inventory from trying out a class from the budget options. Alright, so that's pretty much for the maximizing option. Now let's move on to the budget options. For the budget options, it's fairly simple. You will go with the Rabid Set, precision, toughness, and condition damage. And for the rune, I always recommend you to just go with superior rune of Balthazar. The reason for that is because I understand that in previous just now I talked about condition damage tab of the ranger, that you can go with the bleeding, burning, and poisons, but because of the budget options, I prefer to go with the superior rune of Balthazar. The reason that, as I already said earlier, that burning condition damage is the strongest tab of all of the condition damage in Guild Wars 2 at the current time of me filming this, and because of that I like to just go ahead with maximizing my burning condition damage and burning condition durations from the superior rune of Balthazar. For the accessories, you have a variety of options. You can either go with the Rampagers or the Rabbit and the Die. Now I have recently made a video about the Bloodstone Fen, Ember Bay, and Frostbite Bitter Frost Frontier, and that zone will allow you to get the new ascended quality as accessories, and so you can consider as an option for you to get full Viper set of your accessory and trinkets and whatnot from those 3 maps. So I will include the link down in the descriptions, and have a look at it, see if you can obtain them, because obviously Viper set is always better than Rampagers. Now, alright, so that pretty much it for the Rabid options. I will be moving on to the weapons. For the weapon choice, I use Shortbow for the first set, and for the second set I am using the axe and the torch. Now, regardless of the set, I will always go for the full Vipers option for both of the sets. Now, if you do not have the access to Vipers, or if you do not have the resources to spend for the Vipers, then I would recommend you to go with the Rampagers for the time being until you can have the resources to spend on the Vipers. Now for the Shortbow. For the Superior Sigil, I go with the Superior Sigil of Smoldering, and for the second Sigil, I go with the Sigil of the Earth, which will give me 60% chance on hits that I inflict the bleeding damage. Now, other considerations, you can go with the Superior Sigil of Agony, which will increase 20% chance in 20% of your condition duration for the bleeding. Or you can also go with the Superior Sigil of Geomancy. So the Superior Sigil of Geomancy will allow you to swap your weapon, and whenever you swap your weapon, you will inflict the bleeding damage to the nearby foe. So that's very good. So I'm just giving you summary options, so whatever you feel like going with, go for them. Now for the secondary weapon set, I am the axe and the torch. I am using full Viper set, as I already indicated for you earlier, and I will be using, well, I am using Superior Sigil of Smoldering on my torch, and for my axe I'm using the Superior Sigil of Earth. And the same for, you know, if you want to go with any of the alternatives, let's say Superior Sigil of Agony or Superior Sigil of Geomancy, then feel free to go for them. I'm not forcing you to, I'm just giving you some options. So with that, I'm pretty much done with the weapon sets. Now for the last section, or the information, I actually don't have anything that I can say about the Ranger aside from what I already covered previously. So perhaps I can just do a little bit of a quick talk in regard to the pets. So I already mentioned to you how you should have, how I prefer to have my pets in the specialization sections. But for this one, I like to just quickly touch on the acquisitions of the pet. So in the game, there are some pets that can only obtain from the expansion Heart of Thorns, and so I like to list out the 5 new pets that you can only obtain them from the Heart of Thorns expansion. The rest of them you can obtain them from Tyria. So the 5 pets: first one is the Bristleback, second one is Smoke Scale, the Tiger, the Electrical Wyvern, and the last one, which is the Fire Wyvern. Now I'll just go through each of them in more detail. So for the Bristleback, you can get them from Auric Basin. The Smoke Scale, you can get them from Tangled Death map. The Tiger and the Electrical Wyvern, you can get them from Dragon's Den, the last map of Heart of Thorns. And for the Fire Wyvern, you can get them from Verdant Brick. I will include a link down in the description where you can get them from, the exact locations. So that's pretty much what I want to cover for the Ranger. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know down in comment. I hope it has some use to you. Alright, so as always, enjoy, have fun. I'll see you later.